Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage one of the Giro d'Italia, brought to you by Bicycle, the largest global marketplace for pre-owned bikes with over 20,000 high-quality pre-owned and refurbished bikes. Bicycle connects the sellers and the buyers to make the process of buying and selling safe and easy. Now on to the stage, guys, because it's 141 kilometers, stage one of the Giro d'Italia. We know it's going to be explosive. We know it's going to be a fantastic 24 Giro because Tadej Pogacar's here and he's trying to do the double. Before the race starts, I'm watching on Max, and if we back up the screen here before we get into the race proper, Max is stealing my in the bus meeting. I know they've been doing them for a year or two, but I've been doing them for 4, and they're stealing my information up here on the Butterfly Effect, bringing it to you guys live if you're watching Max. So get a chance to tune in and watch the Max episodes and watch them as they're giving directions here of what Bora Hansgrohe should be doing in the writers' meeting in the bus. Stole that right out of the Butterfly Effect. Okay, let's get into the racing, because before it started proper, Tadej Pogacar threw out an interview and he said he's kind of a little bit tired of all the eyes being put on him, but he's Tadej Pogacar. He's had a magnificent season, winning 4 stages of Volta a Catalunya, the only stage race he's done, taking the KOM jersey, the individual jersey, of course, when it was said and done, and then winning a monument race too. So he's on fantastic form in this 24 season with more wins than losses. But can he win here in stage 1? If you watch Beyond the Coverage, I told you he needs to take it safe. He needs to relax a little bit. He needs to go into the later stages of this week, especially when we're talking about the Gravelstone stage, and then start thinking there about getting the race leader's pink jersey. But I also told you I'm not Tadej Pogacar. He is, so I expected him to be aggressive throughout this first stage and put himself in the pink jersey if they can do everything correct. Well, when the racing starts, 140 kilometers, 3 categories climbs, but it's the 2 bumps that are right in between that, right before and after that category 2 climb, that you got to keep some interest on, because the last bump's going to summit with about 3 kilometers to go in today's stage 1. And that last climb, we're talking about 10-15% sections all the way up the 1.5 kilometers of the final climb here on stage 1. And it's narrow, twisty, hairpins, everything. So you got to have some power left for that 1.5 kilometer final climb. That's not even a category climb. So they call it 3. I'm going to call it 5. When the racing starts, there's a little bit of hesitation at kilometer 0. Then once the racing starts proper, we start seeing attacks right away. 6 riders are going up the road. Once we start getting into the mountain stage in the second half of this stage 1, once we start climbing up, well, we'll see Farrelly. He's going to get maximum KOM points. And then when we get into the sprint points competition, Farrelly takes maximum points there. We see a little bit of argument there from Lily and Call Me Jane. I'm going to say Call Me Jane because he likes Call Me Jean, but I like Call Me Jane, and it's my show. Well, Call Me Jane's having some words there with Farrelly. What's happening here? Call Me Jane's saying, hey, you need to stop this. This has made the chemistry right here in this group of 6 unpleasant, and nobody likes someone trying to be greedy. That's the conversation they're having for sure. But now let's back up all the way to the Peloton with the camera and see who's chasing back there. That's Vegard Stokkeleggen there. They rides for UAE team members on the front, holding this group at about 2 minutes the whole time. When they first took off early in about 33 kilometers to go, Vegard's on the front. The gap gets up to about 1:55, 1:45, and then Vegard brings it back down to like 1:20, 1:10 even, with just 1 rider on the front and 6 guys in the front breakaway. These guys should be gone, but instead, after the sprint points competition, that's why we see Lily and Call Me Jane arguing there with Farrelly, saying, hey, we got to calm this and work together. Well, they don't work together. When they get into the second category climb here, that's when we see the attack from Gebrek Xavier from Little Trek. Once he's going up solo, there's some hesitation, some games being played back there. And then when they go over the top for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th KOM points, we're going to see that it's the Intermarché rider, Call Me Jane. He's going to light up the 2 Italians, and he starts going across solo. So we got 2 riders in the front instead of 6. I'm sitting on the chest field like, what were you guys doing? Farrelly upset the chemistry a ton here on stage 1. That's why we see 2 riders going up the road. Now the cameras go back to the Peloton. Everything's calm back there. There's only 1 guy still pulling. Vegard is doing a phenomenal job up here of pulling. And remember, they don't have 8 riders that are all on the team here thinking about only the general classification for Tadej Pogacar. They got some sprinters in there. Remember, did you watch Beyond the Coverage where I said they have Milano in here? Rui Oliveira is going to be helping him out in the sprints. And then Vegard's going to have to work between riding on these flatter stages and up through the middle mountain stages, and then helping out in the sprints later too for Milano. So they don't have a full squad. That's why Vegard riding the front right now doing this spectacular job is phenomenal. But the gap is now going out to about 3 minutes on the 2 leaders in front. Now we're going to come up to about 45 kilometers to go, and Domin Novak's going to start getting on the front. Domin Novak on the front, this kind of surprises me. I thought he would be the 3rd best climber, maybe in front of Bjerg, but certainly in front of Grossschartner, but he's on the front right now on stage 1, and I'm thinking, whoa, man, they got some faith in Grossschartner, and I thought Grossschartner was maybe the 5th best climber on this team of UAE team members, which pushed him just ahead of the sprinters. So I'm not thinking highly of Grossschartner's form, but I know he has shined big in other stages, but I have seen him fall lately here when we're talking about Tour of Romandie. So as we see Domin Novak on the front, he starts pushing the pace hard, and he's still got some help up there from Vegard Stokkeleggen, but it's not going to last too long, because once we get into that uncategorized bumps, that's when things start falling apart, and we got about 33 kilometers to go, and we see UAE team members with 3 riders going out the back. That right there is Vegard Stokkeleggen, Milano, their sprinter, and Rui Oliveira coming out the back of the group. This is a big time alert sign when we're thinking UAE team members were on stage 1, right? Well, the gap up to the 2 riders is still starting to come down. We're going to cross the finish line here as we do the final lap here on stage 1 with about 30 kilometers to go. We see 4 UAE team members riders on the front with Bjerg and Dominique Novak doing the work, but Grossschartner is in and around the peloton somewhere, because we're going to see him get on the front when we start this last Category 2 categorized climbs coming up. But before we get into that, 1 15-second word here from Bicycle. Remember to check them out with the link in description. Now we get back into the action as we're coming into the Category 2 climb. The 2 riders in front, like I said, about a 2-minute gap as they're coming in this final Category 2 climb. Bjorg's on the front. Bjerg is lighting things up. Guys, his tongue is hanging out. He's going 100% as this climb starts proper. But there's 5 UAE Team Emirates riders. Grossschartner's made it to the front. Domin Novak's up there in second wheel. And then we see Rafael Majka that's sitting 4th, and Tadej Pogacar, the big-time favorite to win the Giro d'Italia, sitting 5th wheel. Behind him, Julian Alaphilippe's in a good position for Soudal Quickstep. Now we go back up to the front. We see Lilian Calme-Jane and Gabriel Xavier working well together so far coming up this Category 2 climb. But the cameras go back to the peloton. Who's coming out the back right now? That's our Insman. Ineos rider, their second lieutenant climber here. He's coming out the back. They only have, when I look at their roster, really 2 good climbers, Geraint Thomas and our Insman for general classification hope here. But they still have 3 riders in the front group because Filippo Ganna's still in the front group, and Jonathan Narvaez is in here. Along with Geraint Thomas, that gives you 3 Ineos riders still left in the front, but our Insman coming out the back has got to be putting some pressure on Ineos right now on what these further stages are going to lead to if our Insman can't find some form after the stage 1. Well, he's dropping out the back. Now we go to the front of the break there. We see Lilian Calme-Jane throwing in an attack. He's going solo. As he's going solo, the gap is down under 40 seconds, just about 38 seconds if I remember correctly. We go back to the peloton. Oh no, now we start seeing the next explosion back there from UAE team members because Bjerg is coming out the back and Domin Novak's getting dropped at the same time. Cameras go in front of the peloton. That's Grossschartner at the front. Grossschartner followed by Rafael Majka, followed by Tadej Pogacar, but it's not going to stay that way too long because Grossschartner is going to get dropped as we see the guys left on the front for UAE team members. There's only 2 of them, Rafael Majka and Tadej Pogacar, and we got about 2.2 kilometers to go to the top of this last Category 2 climb. That's going to summit with about 22 kilometers to go. Now, Rafael Majka's throwing everything into it, and we start seeing some more damage at the back of the peloton because it's time for Plap to go out the back just after the dropping of Bardet, Roman Bardet, DSM's coming out the back. Big time GC favorite here with our Insman already getting dropped. Roman Bardet coming out the back. Plap, maybe not a GC guy here, but you know he was hoping to do something on the stage 1. Now we go back up to the front with about 500 meters to go. Lilian Calme-Jane, he's just about getting caught as we see behind Rafael Majka's bringing the peloton. What's left of it, about 35 riders up close to the heels there of Lilian Calme-Jane, but Calme-Jane holds off the peloton to get maximum KOM points on this Category 2. That'll put himself in the race leader's jersey. Now, once they drop down the descent, Calme-Jane he's got full gas on the front here as he's got his chin on the stem there, and then he's got his tongue on the stem. Call me Jane. Listen to the butterfly effect right here from my experience. Don't ever put your chin on the stem when you're in the aerodynamic position. I did that once, hit a pothole, the stem came up. I thought it broke my jaw. Never, never put your chin on the stem there, but he's going aero, he's going fast, and he's not listening to me. The peloton behind, led by Rafael Micah, it's starting to slow up a little bit, and that's allowing the gap up there to Lily and Call Me Jane to start going out to 20 and 30 seconds, because Rafael Micah thought he was going to get some help, but he's getting no help. He's going to get attacked instead. Max Schockman's going to throw an attack with EF Education to honor it. Those two riders are going up the road. 2 more are going to bridge. Then we got 4 in the front and 4 more bridging. Now look at the peloton. That's Rafael Micah stuck on the front again. He's the only guy left for Tadej Pogačar, but he's looking back over his shoulder. So we see 4 chasing 4, and we still got 1 up the road, Lily and Call Me Jane, that's still holding about a 15-second gap on the chasers. And we got Rafael Micah looking backwards from help. No help's coming. If I back the film up to some of the director sportifs, this Melissa Bike Reef, he was asked many times, how do you beat Tadej Pogačar? Guys, there's no real strategy to beating Tadej Pogačar other than you have to get him on the front. That's what you have to do. You have to get him isolated. You have to get his teammates isolated. Right now, we got under 20 kilometers to go. Rafael Micah's on the front. Tadej Pogačar is almost isolated, and Rafael Micah's getting attacked by a group of 8 going up the road with 1 more, Lily and Call Me Jane, further up the road. Rafael Micah's in trouble. We're going to see Tadej Pogačar. He's going to slip to the back of the peloton of about 30-35 riders with Filippo Ganna there. This is big-time trauma. If I'm looking at this, there's danger zones going off on the Chesterfield in my mind right now. Tadej Pogačar, you're at the back. If you flat, if you have some kind of accident, Rafael Micah's already dead to the world right now, pulling all the way up for 2.5 kilometers up the last category climb, all the way down the descent. Now he's still on the front with 35 guys still left in the group while he's chasing 8. Now we come into that little bump, and then we see this Lily and Call Me Jane. He's about getting caught from the group of 8 behind, because if I back the film up just a hair, we'll see that there were some problems there with the group of 8. Nobody wanted to work well together. You're like, Chris, why aren't they working well together? Well, Damiano Caruso's a GC threat up there. Max Schockman could be a GC threat, but we don't know for sure till we get later into this Grand Tour here of the Giro d'Italia. So there's a little bit of chemistry arrest right here where nobody wants to work together. But we see with 10 kilometers to go, they just about got Lily and Call Me Jane wrapped up. And once they do, Caruso goes to the front. But still nobody's helping them. When we back up to the peloton, Rafael Micah still on the front of the peloton. And at points in times with around 10 kilometers to go, all 3 of the groups were in sight. But now the front groups caught Lily and Call Me Jane. And Caruso can't get any help. He tried once, he tried twice. There's no help back there for Caruso, as he knows the GC threat would be there if they just get some help from the guys. Instead, they're getting no help, and back there, Rafael Micah is swinging on the front of the peloton, doing damage control. Now, we go back up front. There's an attack from Conchi from Albacete de Cunit. Albacete de Cunit rider's going because he knows they're playing games back there as the peloton's starting to come into the last and final climb here. It's not categorized, but like I said, 10 to 15% sections all the way up. It's switchbacks. It's nasty, and it's a right turn. We see Conchi take the right turn, full gas. Then let's look at the peloton as they're coming in with 35 riders. Tadej Pogačar is on the left side of the picture there, about 3rd row. Once they go into the right turn, he's going to slop back to about 6th or 7th as he's getting squeezed, and they're coming into this turn. Everybody separated by about 15-20 seconds from Conchi up front to the group chasing with Max Schockman and with Caruso trying to get some GC advantage over Tadej Pogačar. Now, as the peloton starts to climb, Tadej Pogačar is coming up on the right side fast. He's throwing in acceleration. If you look on his wheel, we'll see that's Jonathan Narvaez there from Ineos. He's solidly locked on his wheel. If I back the film up before this right turn, Narvaez was locked on his wheel too. Now let's go fast forward. We see Pogačar throwing his attack. Narvaez is there. Julian Alaphilippe is latched on. We got 3 riders breaking away from the peloton of GC favorites. Tadej Pogačar is catching the remnants of the group of 8. He's flying through it, just dodging his way through the riders. The Slovenian's going full gas on the front. Jonathan Narvaez finds the back wheel of Tadej Pogačar as Tadej Pogačar is coming up there to Conchi from Albacete de Cunit. Julian Alaphilippe, if I back it up just a hair, as Tadej Pogačar was going through the remnants of the break, Julian Alaphilippe was getting popped. Now we see Max Schachmann's coming off from the acceleration from Tadej Pogacar as he's rounding up the last breakaway rider here, Conti from Alpecin de Koenig. He throws in one more acceleration, comes around Conti. Now Jonathan Narvaez back there is still locked on, but Max Schachmann's coming off as they go over the top of this climb. Schachmann is just a second or two off. They drop down the descent. It's twisty, technical, all the way to the finish line here with Tadej Pogacar on the front looking back. He wants some help from Jonathan Narvaez. But Tadej Pogacar, you're a knucklehead, man. You blew up your team. You didn't listen to beyond the coverage tactics of how you should have raced today's stage one. You went all aggressive. You left Rafael Micah solo. Now you're up here with no help because Jonathan Narvaez is not a general classification threat here like Geraint Thomas, his teammate who's in that back group there. So Narvaez is just going to sit on the Slovenian right now. When he sits on, that allows Max Schachmann to come back on through this twisty technical descent. Now they're coming in the 1K to go. Tadej Pogacar still on the front, looking back, right and left over his shoulder all the time as he's got to stay on the front because the group behind's coming fast. At 700 meters, 600 meters to go, Tadej Pogacar still on the front. Look back there, there's one's chasing, that's Conti back there. And then we look a little further back, the Peloton's coming around the corner fast, because the gap up to the 3 leaders is only about 10 seconds. Tadej Pogacar at 200 meters looks left over his shoulder, right back at Max Schachmann, who started the sprint. Once he sees Schachmann starts a sprint, Tadej Pogacar starts his sprint. But guess what? Jonathan Narvaez starts his sprint at 150 meters to go. 100 meters to go, it's a two-way drag between Jonathan and the Slovenian Tadej Pogacar, with Max Schachmann getting a draft off of Tadej Pogacar. 75 meters to go, we see Jonathan Narvaez. He's got a little bit of a lead there on Tadej Pogacar. 50 meters to go. We know Jonathan Narvaez, unless something catastrophically happens with his chain, he's going to win today's stage one of the Giro d'Italia. And as he hits kilometer 0, he sits up and celebrates a victory here at the Giro d'Italia. His second stage win at the Giro. First time wearing the race leader's pink jersey here on stage 1 of the 24 Giro d'Italia. Now behind Tadej Pogacar, Max Schachmann had bike throws. Schachmann ended up getting second for the 6-second time bonus. That leaves Tadej Pogacar with a 4-second time bonus on the rest of the GC favorites that'll come in about 10 seconds down, minus our Ansman and Bardet, who had a bad day here on stage 1 when it's all said and done. But when we break the tactics down, Jonathan Narvaez, you did it correctly. Everybody kept asking from the commentators at Max, how do you beat Tadej Pogacar? This is what I've said from day one of the Butterfly Effect and Beyond the Coverage. You got to get the guy riding the front. Remember when Mathieu van der Poel was doing the classics and he's riding the front for 20 kilometers, then he loses? There to none other than Mads Pedersen. That's how you lose. You got to get the guy on the front or you got to get his team isolated, and then you can't come to the front and start helping the Slovenian out if you want to win the Giro d'Italia. Now, if I gave you some more tactics on today's race, big time knuckleheads, and it started all the way back from UAE Team Emirates management when they put Milano on the team and they add him some guys there like Rui Oliveira to help them do the sprints, because Rui Oliveira and Vegard Stekelagen could have easily been riding throughout the early parts of the stage and brought back the break sooner and then have it all back together so that his climbers can ride the pace a little bit different than what they did on today's stage 1. Because Domen Novak riding before Großschartner, I thought that was a knucklehead move. Großschartner only rode 200 meters. Bjerg did a solid job. That's what I expected out of him. Rafael Micah went above and beyond what I expected out of Rafael Micah. You were beautiful. But when you're coming into the last and final climb and it's 1.5 kilometers to go at 15%, Tadej Pogacar, next time, don't come into that right corner 6. Come into it first, flying as fast as you can. Hit that last right turn with as much speed as you possibly can. We all know you could hit that turn first. There's no doubt about it. Why you went into it 6, had to slow the speed down, then pick the speed back up. That was a big-time knucklehead move there. And then using your whole team on stage 1, but saving sprinters for later stages, it doesn't make any sense, guys, when it's all said and done. It was knucklehead tactics. After the race, we know Tadej Pogacar is dejected for not winning today's race because he should have won if they wanted to go deep like this and try to get the stage victory for Tadej Pogacar. It was his for the taking. If you left Rafael Micah to go into that last 1.5 kilometer climb and drill it for Tadej Pogacar 100% fresh, he'd have blew guys up. I think if he went in first, he would have blew guys up anyways. But when you look at the Max, the commentators afterwards from Adam Blythe, he said, well, it looks bad, but it's not that bad because UAE Team Emirates really rested their guys on today's race. I mean, who did they really ride? His words, not mine. He said, of course, Dominik Novak ride, and then, of course, we know We know Rafael Micah rode for a long time. You don't want Rafael Micah riding on stage 1. If he has to ride a little part of up the last and final 1.5K, sure. But if you got Rafael Micah riding Dominik Novak, the two guys that I said on Beyond the Coverage are his best backup riders to Tadej Pogacar, and they're riding the whole stage. Adam Blythe, the other guys didn't ride. Who's going to ride in the mountains? Milano's not going to ride in the mountains. Rui Oliveira's not going to be there. And of course, Vegard Steckelhagen is going to ride the flat stages, but he's not going to be there in the mountains. Grosschartner got dropped today. And Bjorg, like I said, rode good, but he had to do too much and blew himself up instead of making it over that last and final Category 2 climb at a little bit smaller pace and then work with Rafael Micah and Grosschartner because they wouldn't have been dropped. So as we start looking at the later stages, do not listen to Adam Blythe. He's a knucklehead for sure for his comments of saying UAE team members didn't have to ride much, so it wasn't that bad. You're right in your comment. It wasn't that bad. It was absolutely catastrophic here of knuckleheadism from UAE team members. And Adam Blythe said, now tomorrow, Ineos have to ride on tomorrow's stage. They don't have to ride, because if you want to beat the Slovenian Tadej Pogacar, how do you beat him? You make him ride the front and you isolate him. So Ineos, Jonathan Narvaez, you got the race leader's pink jersey here at the Giro d'Italia, but that doesn't mean you have to ride tomorrow. If you want Geraint Thomas any chance of winning the general classification, do not ever ride the front for Tadej Pogacar and UAE team members. You need to wear him down. Hope Geraint Thomas gets a little better than he was here on today's stage 1 because he lost 10 seconds and couldn't make the split with Tadej Pogacar. But for a GC rider, I'm not too worried about that because a climb of 1.5 kilometers for Tadej Pogacar is perfect. So Geraint Thomas working his way into the Giro d'Italia. When we're talking about tomorrow's stage, do not race for the race leader's pink jersey. Make UAE team members do everything, and do not listen to Adam Blythe under any circumstances because he's a knucklehead. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition of the Butterfly Effect real soon.